The Jeffrey Epstein story takes on all of these different aspects that relate to things we're told in life, stranger danger, right? Or this. Tell someone to not think about red Volkswagens and suddenly they say red Volkswagens everywhere. And we need to do a good job of parsing out which is which. Stranger danger, red Volkswagens. Are we seeing red Volkswagens everywhere? Are we seeing Jeffrey Epstein everywhere? There's a movie, and it came out a while ago, and one of the guys who's at the center of the Pizzagate scandal, a guy named James Alefantis, who in my mind is a full-on creepy dude. I don't want to share the images from his Instagram account, which I understand he took down, because they included things that to me are very clearly related to bad intent with children, murderously bad intent with children, the worst kinds of intent with children, and his stream was filled with this. So he was the 49th of the 50th most powerful people under, the age of 40 or something in Washington, D.C., according to GQ magazine a few years ago. Also happens to be an executive producer of films. And not a lot of them, but sort of a select number. There was a movie called Automatic at Sea. And since, the YouTubes of the world pretend to care about copyrights, or in some cases do, we have to be careful about what we play. But last night I pretended to be asleep and saw Peter watching me through a crack in the door. He claims we're alone on this island and that the other guests will arrive in the coming days. So the plot line is this. A young woman runs into a fantastically rich trust fund baby who takes her to the family's secretive island retreat. And then she goes on to discover that this guy is dangerous. This other woman shows up and says he's very, very dangerous. Things are not what they seem. And in that way, it's sort of cliched. But bad things happen to her on an island from a man who's isolated her from her family and isolated her from society. This was the plot line. And James Alefantis, who owns Comet Pizza and Ping Pong, was an executive producer. Now, what's fascinating about this is, are we seeing red Volkswagens everywhere because we're seeing Jeffrey Epstein everywhere, or was Jeffrey Epstein everywhere? The ranch in New Mexico is now owned by a big, huge, mobbed-up Republican donor type, and his papa was a Republican donor type. And people are stepping forward and going to this dude and saying, hey, since you own the ranch, we've undertaken a fundraiser to go and search the ranch for bodies, because there were some young women who said some young women were unalive there and buried on the ranch. Could we come and look around? Funny thing, he hasn't responded. He hasn't come back to say, sure, of course. He's running for office. You think he might come around and say, absolutely, I encourage it. In fact, how can I help? I've got the money. I don't need your money to pay for it. We'll do it. He's not doing that. So is this another red Volkswagen we're seeing, or is Jeffrey Epstein everywhere, including at levels like that? Well, we know he was at levels like that. The DOJ finally released the names of everybody they say are in the files. And it's the most powerful people in the world who they say are in the files. So we know Jeff Epstein had reach into Republican circles. Steve Bannon was his PR agent, unpaid. Steve Bannon wanted Jeffrey Epstein to help him take down the Pope. This is according to email exchanges in the folders, or the Epstein files, rather. So are we seeing red Volkswagens? Are we seeing stranger danger? Which one of these cliches is actually going on? The director of this movie, writer and director of this movie called Automatic at Sea, talked about this experience of being involved in his film being viewed as sort of a conspiracy theory. So this was the question. This came from a site called No Film School. And the question was, you had a conspiracy theory experience with this film. What can you tell me about Pizzagate and its relationship to Automatic at Sea? Now, by the way, this article was written a long time back, before any of the current revelations came around. So I'd be interested to hear what Matthew Lessner thinks now. Matthew Lessner is the writer and director. And it's a long interview. It's mostly about the film and how he shot it and camera angles and stuff. It's a film thing after all. He writes this, or he says this in response, yikes. That's a rather involved question. I wrote an article about the experience for Filmmaker magazine that I would encourage anyone who's interested to check out. In broad strokes, Pizzagate was, and I guess still is, a debunked internet conspiracy theory that resulted from the hacked and leaked emails of Hillary Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta. The conspiracy alleges that a child sex trafficking ring was being run out of a basement of a pizza parlor in Washington, D.C. called Comet Ping Pong that had been the site of several high-profile Democratic fundraisers. Conspiracists began harassing and threatening everyone involved with Comet Ping Pong, particularly its owner, James Alefantis, who, in an odd twist of fate, was also an executive producer of Automatic at Sea and my previous short film, Chapel Perilous. So in his longer piece, he goes on to talk about how he's not against conspiracy theories. He actually believes in some conspiracy theories. He actually thinks they bear looking into. Now, this was many, many, many years ago, prior to us now seeing pizza. We need more pizza. I'm going to go to jail for pizza. We need to have pizzas delivered. Will there be enough pizza there? These are fantastically rich people who don't need to worry about pizza being there, the food. Many of them have their own hired chefs. If they want pizza, it comes out of their own ovens. They aren't about Papa John's. There's every reason in the world to believe that pizza was code word for kid, victim. Working as I used to in Washington, D.C., I once worked on a project for a very, very famous media executive, and we operated in code words. We had a very complicated way of the way we communicated. I had a laptop that existed only to communicate with my contact. I never posted anything on that other than what looked like coursework for a university. I did nothing there that ever went on a corporate Wi-Fi. It was always out of a coffee shop or a Starbucks or accessible Wi-Fi on college campuses. All the profiles on it appeared to be the profile of someone in their mid-20s. Everything I looked at appeared to be someone in their mid-20s who just occasionally went and wrote this or that blog about this or that media executive. We talked about recipes and chefs. All of it was in code. All of it because we knew that the DOJ of Barack Hussein Obama was using the tools of spycraft to spy on this media executive. We knew that. Therefore, we operated this way. I talked twice on the phone with my contact, twice. Other times, we met literally in restaurants in New York City, sitting one table facing one way, one the other, and did the thing where we just, noticed each other and had some conversations about the sports pages and pointing at pictures and laughing, all the while having a business conversation. My payments were laundered through another company. And it was an extraordinary amount of money to do the work that our firm did. So I'm not unfamiliar with using things like pizza as code words. These were code words. This is a statement from a very powerful and very rich man. And it goes into this thing about, are we seeing red Volkswagens everywhere? It also goes into another cliche that bad actors will often accuse others of that which they themselves are doing. This was a Saul Alinsky tactic. Accuse your opponent of doing exactly what you're doing. So when they come along and accuse you, you can say, oh, you're just now coming back because you're the one doing it. I'm going to read this for you. Then I'm going to show you who said it. My team looked at it and thought that her voice should be heard. That because she was challenging someone who's so much more wealthy and powerful, it shouldn't be squashed. And that providing that voice for people who are otherwise would be ground down by the system or the powerful is, I think, a good thing, obviously, especially in the case of women, and obviously, especially in the case of sexual and or other kind of torture and attack. So providing that support was something that I felt very happy to do. The speaking truth to power and having a woman have her voice, having a chance to be heard and not squashed through the legal courts because she didn't have the money to fully pursue it, I thought was a good thing for society and not just for her. And obviously the point is that the court should go through the process. And the fact that the courts found President Trump guilty doesn't surprise me. Except they didn't find him guilty. They found him liable. There's a difference with civil court. This guy recently said he's been exonerated by the FBI. No, he hasn't. So who is this guy? I'll show you in a second, but I can tell you he's got major, major money. Your retirement account was not created for a time when a scandal of this level that Pam Bondi said, if the whole thing gets out, it could tumble. It could destroy the American Republic. Your retirement account was not made for times like these. Your retirement account was not created for a time where Larry Ellison says AI is going to take over healthcare. Your retirement account was not created for a time when AI is eating away at jobs of lawyers and paralegals already, coders. We're some of the best coders in the world know now it's just a matter of time before they no longer have a job. These were the jobs of the future. Remember that when coal miners were told, go learn to code? Remember that? And they all sneered at them. Your retirement account was not created for times like these. So I suggest you get an immediate upgrade and an immediate look into your retirement account. How bad off are you? Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're golden. Maybe your people handling this for you have you set up perfectly well. Either case, I'm going to offer you a free, no-obligation consultation with my friend Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital Management. These are 3 meetings. The first one's social, hanging out, seeing if you like each other. He's going to manage your money. You want to like the guy. Second meeting is about where you're at. He's going to look at your portfolio, what you own, what you don't own, what you owe, and what you hope to have in retirement. And the third meeting is this. They're either going to come back and say, don't you dare make a change. You are in terrific hands. Stay where you're at, or you have some real holes. You're exposed to a ton of risk, or did you know that you should have made a lot more money in your portfolio? So either way, it's free. It's no obligation. All you have to do is sign up. It's that simple. It's just a website. Go right now to knowyourriskpodcast.com. That's K-N-O-W. Knowyourriskpodcast.com. Investment Advisory Services Officer, Trek Financial LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Investments involves risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 26-05. So the statement I just read, did you guess? It's Reid Hoffman. Reid Hoffman, who is no stranger to Jeff Epstein, and I'll talk about how often they communicated. He's in second place to a Republican. Here's Reid Hoffman after saying these words.
My team looked at it and thought that it was that her voice should be heard, that because she was challenging someone who's so much more wealthy and powerful, it shouldn't be squashed. And that, providing that voice for, people who are otherwise would be ground down by the system or the powerful is, I think, a good thing. Obviously, especially in the case of women, and obviously, especially in the case of sexual and other, torture and attack, and
that's a weird word, torture, isn't it?
And so providing that support was something that I felt very happy to do. The speaking truth to power and having a woman have her voice, having a chance to be heard and not squashed through the legal courts because she didn't have the money to fully pursue it, I thought was a good thing for society.
So those are some interesting words: squashed, tortured, squashed, tortured. Those are really, really vibrant words. Squashed and tortured, squashed and tortured. Huh. This is an email from Reid Hoffman to Jeffrey Epstein, December 24th, 2014. Smiley face. Out then busy at 4 times a week, going to start trying for 7 days a week. Today's 4 p.m. in a row. Sent you 2 gifts, New York Addy, meaning your New York City address. 1, ice cream. If you have any interest, you should try. Else, for the girls. Something that may strike your funny bone for the island. Hope you're having fun as usual. Seeing Bill again, 110 with Satya. Satya is the CEO. Apparently he's talking about Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft. There's this. Email exchanges between Jeffrey Epstein and some of the top 3 emailers. Bannon, former White House strategist, still a friend of the president, still has a ton of footprint and influence in MAGA. 1,974 emails, including trying to help Jeffrey Epstein overcome his bad PR, having been, a sexual assaulter of kids. Apparently Bannon knew this. Apparently working with him to help topple the Pope. I've never met Steve, but this is incredibly troubling. Then Reid Hoffman, LinkedIn founder, Microsoft board member, 1,737 emails. And then there's Bill Gates, 542 emails, but they were just casual friends. They never really. So Reid Hoffman wants to do things for women who are being tortured and squashed. Those are really weird words. Are we seeing red Volkswagens everywhere? Are we feeling in our hearts a stranger danger? Maybe Reid Hoffman's just a playa. And all the ladies love them some Reid Hoffman. This is another email unconnected to those three guys. It comes from a guy named Mark Tramo, Wednesday, 9/13/2017. And it says to JEE, Richard Johnson. Hi, JEE. Hey, that's Jeffrey Epstein's initials. That's how you know her as his good buddy, JEE. Thanks for sending Richard Johnson my way. I trust the kind words I shared with him are acceptable to you. If not, please let me know ASAP. I'm on the road and my cell is redacted. If A-okay, then I hope you realize this recognition for all you do for so many of us is, in my opinion, overdue and well-deserved. Cheers, Mark. P.S. I was just reading today that newborns will suck more vigorously on a pacifier if it triggers playback of a recording of her or his mother's voice than another woman's voice. Have you read David Brooks' Social Animal? Was #1 at New York Times books for quite a while. Mark Jude Trano, medical doctor, PhD, Department of Neurology, David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA, Department of Musicology, UCLA, Herb Alpert School of Medicine, or Music rather, Director of the Institute for Music and Brain Science, Co-Director, University of California, Multi-Campus Music Research Initiative, UMercy. It beggars the imagination, doesn't it? Jeffrey Epstein had reach into every level of power across our sometimes pretend party lines, into entertainment and science. And this is a fact. We will continue to see red Volkswagens everywhere and have stranger danger until the governing authorities understand something. You're only out is to release everything and investigate everything. The unsubstantiated reports that President Trump sexually inflicted harm upon boys should be investigated. The people who made those claims should be brought in under oath. They should be invited to testify under oath as to what happened, and all of it should be investigated. If you do not do that, everybody will be right to conclude that Pam Bondi is involved in a personal and purposeful cover-up. And I'll just say this again. You're covering up nothing. For this time period, okay, maybe you hid some things. God watched everything, including the now infamous picture they have of a child being used in the most atrocious way I cannot describe here or will not, by 8 men. No arrests. But damnation is certain for people who do not repent. Eternal damnation. And by the way, Pam and Mr. President, if you help them cover this up, you're helping them lie, and you think you're lying to God, you're not.